right, welcome back in, everybody, to another episode of Wrestling with the Paranormal with your hosts, Austin Lee and the enlightened one.
Hello, everybody. It's me, the enlightened one. We're back with another episode of Wrestling with the Paranormal. I'm just going to get right into it. Today's wrestling ghost story. Did you ever hear about the John Moxley ghost story where he's in the gym?
I have not heard this one.
Okay, so he's working out, and he's in this old English-style hotel in this old castle lake, and he's working out, and he sees the clock, and he wants to check what time it is, and all of a sudden, the clock just starts spinning.
At what time? 3 a.m.?
No, it's in the morning. He's going to the gym, and he's working out, and the clock just keeps spinning and spinning and spinning.
Wow.
And John decides he's not going to pay any attention to it, and he's just going to keep working out. And he doesn't want to be scared, and so he just keeps working out and ignores it. But curiosity gets the best of him, and he looks up at the clock, and it's still spinning, and then it stops right at 12 o'clock. And it's not a plug-in clock; it's just one of those little battery ones. So that was a strange thing, and it freaked the shit out of him, and he got right out of there.
Wow. That's interesting. I could see where that would be a little bit creepy, trying to get a workout in and
England is one of the most haunted places in the world.
Yeah,
it's just got a lot of history in England.
Oh man, absolutely. First, how's your Saturday going?
So I worked last night in my haunted workplace, and the funny thing is so they have AA meetings, and I talked a bit about the orbs in my camera, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the funny thing is, I've been noticing it. And when the meeting's over, the orbs go crazy.
Really?
Everyone's leaving the meeting, and the orbs are cut. It's almost like the orbs are leaving the meeting too.
That's weird.
like they all came to the meeting and
meeting is adjourned.
Yeah, and then the orbs are just all like going nuts as the people are leaving.
Wow. I tell you what, man, the place that I work at, so when I was working the weekend shift, I was on day shift hours, and it would be, I would have to get there before everybody else, get the lights on and everything like that. And that was the most creepy thing, trying to roll through a 750,000 square foot warehouse in the pitch black, trying to go get stuff on. But I would always hear things. And I'm the only one in there. And it was just a really creepy thing. But I've heard, and I don't know, because I mentioned something to a couple of the people in there, and they said that they've seen a ghost in there. I've not seen anything, but I always heard it and had that weird feeling like I was being watched, whenever I was by myself. But that's strange.
The dark does something strange too. I know there's something powerful about the dark.
Yeah, absolutely. So today's episode, we're going to be talking about the Demon House / Portal to Hell here in Indiana. But before we get there, do you want me to go in on this story about the house that my ex-wife and I were in?
Let's do a little plugging first.
Sure, yeah, of course. It's been a minute since we did this. Go right ahead.
So tomorrow we are going to be celebrating Owen Hart's birthday. We got the Owen Hart shirt on. We're going to be celebrating Owen Hart's birthday on Just Another Effing Podcast. And really excited for that. And we're applying for our pro wrestling tees store, so that's exciting.
That's big news. That's big news. I can't wait to get one of those shirts.
Yeah, like we're we I think that you should change your name to Austin Lee 16-3 because
It just rolls right off the
yeah,
tongue, right?
Austin Lee 16-3.
Oh, get a nice cease and desist on that one, I'm sure.
Oh, that could be on the back. Cease
Right,
and
yeah. Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
desist.
Oh man. Okay. So yeah, check everybody check that out. Just another effing pod with Aaron and JFB. Going to be an excellent episode. I'll do my best to try to get on there with you guys for that one, but I may not be able to make it.
If you can, you can, and we'll get you on a future episode.
Yeah.
And,
Uh,
get you in Dallas rotating or something.
yeah, there we go. So outside of that, of course, I've teased on here a couple of times. My ex-wife and I had moved into a home that was very actively haunted. So, as a precursor to this, her and I had a perfect setup out in the country of Bloomington, Indiana, just a couple hours south of where I'm at now. And it sat on 750 acres. Like, it was
Wow.
unbelievable. One big lake right in the front yard. The majority of it was wooded. It's just amazing. But
Sounds beautiful.
so I didn't want to go. But she had found this house that was slightly bigger, square footage wise and all that stuff. And we were talking about maybe having another kid, and which ultimately happened.
And it's an older house, isn't it? It's got to be an older house.
No, that's the thing is it
Oh,
was actually like a newer one. So, I mean, it was nice, but it was moving from 750 acres down to an acre. You know what I mean? That was a big move. And it was a little bit further south of Bloomington. But ultimately, you know, as you do, you make those, you know, cooperation moves. You know, what's the word here? I'm having a brain fart. We compromised. There we go.
yeah,
We
compromise.
compromised and did what she wanted to do. And that's how it. That's how it always goes. That's right. So we left that perfect setup, moved into this place, and we had to clean it up. The people that had left, it looked as if they just like literally up and left one day.
I wonder why.
Left their stuff, and we're like, wow, I mean, this is a nice house. I wonder why they would just leave their stuff. So we had everything cleaned up and everything. We'd worked that out with the landlord that we would clean it up for no security deposit or whatever it was. And there was a lot of like canned cat food under. I remember that, and this will come into play later. But and there was some medicine underneath the kitchen sink next to the cat food, and I looked it up, and it was prescribed to people with cancer. So I'm like, well, whoever was here was obviously sick. You know, maybe something happened and the family just left. I don't know. So uh, we were there for a couple of months, and things like our oldest son at the time, he was 4, and he was terrified of his room. Would not go in his room. We couldn't get him to go in there for anything unless one of us were with him. And one day, a couple of months in, that completely changed, and we couldn't get him out of his room. And every time that I would go back there to check on him, he would push me out of this room and slam the door, and he would say, Corey doesn't like you in here.
Whoa.
And
So how long ago was this?
this would have been 2013, maybe 2014.
So how
So
old is your son now?
He's 11. He's getting ready to
Okay.
turn 12 in June. So,
And how old is
yeah,
he at this point?
he was 4.
Okay.
So, um,
That just creeps me out.
dude. So, I mean, that's like when it kind of started. He would do that. I'd go back there and just check. I'd hear him talking too. I would hear him talking to somebody. And it's just like, well, maybe he's just a kid, He's just back there talking to himself, playing.
This might be better than the demon house.
Right. So I would, I'd go back there and I would like listen at the door, and he would even know that I was there. He'd be like, "What do you mean he's out there?" And then I would like knock on the door, and he'd be like, "Corey told me you were just out here." He's like, "You got to get out of here." So it would like weird me out, and my ex-wife. So uh, a little bit after that, her and I start experiencing some things. Particularly, like it happened to her first when I would be, out for work or whatever. She would be calling me or messaging me throughout the day saying all these things are happening. And I had kind of
Like what?
tried to, like, she would say she would hear things or see a shadow out of the corner of her eye, coming into the room. And then when she'd turn, there's nothing there. She'd hear things moving. Things would move, like she would sit something down, walk out of the room, and come
Okay,
right
so
back, and it'd be gone.
right away, I'm thinking this is demonic activity and not a ghost haunting.
So, with my experience growing up in the house that I did, I thought maybe it's me, and maybe I'm haunted, and
Yeah, maybe they followed you.
maybe they followed me. So I didn't know what to think. Um, but my son had kept saying stuff about this Corey, and he would always describe him the same way. He said he was black, like he had been burnt, and had red eyes. So eventually, her and I started to do some digging, and we found a guy named Corey. And for the life of me, I can't think of his last name now. Robinson, maybe something along those lines. Where Richardson, something with an R, but he had passed away and he had lived in the house.
Yeah, but why would he have red eyes?
So here is how we found out he passed away. He was a religious guy. He was attending church camp. He was 18 years old, and oddly enough, he was in my sister and my cousin's class for high school. They knew him. So on his way back from church camp, he got into a wreck. Had wrecked his car and got trapped in it, and his car caught on fire. So he burned alive in his car. So, I remember telling my family about it because of all the things that were going on, and the things that our oldest son was saying. And my sister and my cousin were like, "We went to school with this guy. I mean, he was a really good kid. I don't know why he would be doing, things like this, if that's really who it is."
Yeah, I don't think it's him.
Right.
Like I didn't
So,
I don't think it's him.
right. Um, so things continue to happen and ramp up between my ex-wife and myself. It finally happened to me one day, and I would always have these like weird feelings whenever if I was in the house alone, I would always feel like I was being watched, but I never had anything like experienced anything there other than just like getting the chills like somebody's staring at me. But I was cooking dinner one night, and she was in the kitchen with me, kind of at the island counter. And then all like I turned around and was getting something off the island, and then all of a sudden we start hearing footsteps running in circles around us at the island counter. It was like it was running all around the island counter, and then we're both looking at each other like, what in the hell is this? And then all of a sudden the kitchen drawer, the silverware drawer, started shaking right in front of me, like as I was standing there. So she freaked out. She was wanting to move. And I had talked her into letting me try to figure something out. And ultimately, I ended up calling this quote unquote paranormal group. I had no idea who they were, but it was the only people around. It was called Orange County Paranormal from Paoli, Indiana.
Why
So,
were they Orange County? Like, you're not there.
well, I don't know. I didn't know what to do. I asked if they would just come out and check things out.
And we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
Why didn't you call a church?
I was not active in the church, so I didn't figure that a
Like,
church
did it
would
cross your
really.
mind?
It did, but it was like, which one do I call?
Yeah,
And
you just felt helpless,
would
right?
they,
Out of
yeah,
it.
would they give a shit because I don't go to that church and not an active member there? So I thought, for whatever reason, there's
Okay.
only 9,000 movies to say why it's a bad idea. But I call this place. They come out and they're just initially the initial meeting was just talking to us and figuring out what's going on. Well, they started taking pictures, and then the dude, as he was taking a couple of pictures of us all on the couch, at the time we had our second born was there at the time. He was just a baby, so we're all sitting on the couch together, and the leader of the group, his name was Mike. Gladys. No, but
Oh, Gladys has got to be a reoccurring joke.
right. So he takes the pictures and he's looking at the camera and he's like, "Oh no," looking to the other people that he brought with him. And I'm like, "What do you mean, oh no? Like what's on there? You can't just say oh no and then not tell us what it is."
It's like
And
when some barber's cutting your hair and they say, "Oh
yeah,
no."
yeah, oops, like uh so he doesn't show us. He's like, "Oh, I'm sure it's nothing." It's like, well, if it's nothing, then show us and let us determine if it's nothing. So he finally shows me the camera, and there are orbs and a shadow figure like sitting. It looked as if it was sitting on the chair or the arm of the sofa.
Yeah, just fitting in.
Yes, and then there were orbs all over the picture. So he decides that they would come back out for the investigation. Um, my ex-wife took our boys down to her mom and dad's for the evening, and I agreed. I said, I will let you guys come in here and do this under the condition, because I didn't know them or felt like I could really trust them, under the condition that I can be here and be participating in it as well.
And you'd done the ghost hunting by this time or whatever?
Yes. So they agreed to that. They said, yeah, that's completely fine. So they come back that weekend. They showed up around midnight. Uh, my ex and the boys were gone. And from the moment that they hooked up their equipment, everything was going crazy. All of their instruments were just lighting up. They had all the sensors in there that would light up if something passed it. They had the
It would have been a
EVPs.
documentary all on its own.
I'm telling you, dude, it was an insane, intense experience, to say the least. And they had the EVPs and everything. They caught so many EVPs. When we were in, Mike and I went back to my oldest son's room where he was always interacting with this Corey, and he had one of the Ninja Turtle, the Shell Shock vans, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So he had that sitting on his toy box that was like doubled as a bench that he could sit on,
Yeah.
and we caught that on camera rolling across his toy box, rolling across the seat of it. So
Wow.
we were talking, and Mike had said, um, "Do you know you're freaking this family out?" My ex-wife, her name was Holly. He said Holly is wanting to move. And we continued to talk. Well, whenever we went to go play that back for the EVP session, whenever he said Holly is wanting to move, it said, good, get the fuck out.
Was it clear?
Clear as day. And him and I were both looking at each other and we're like, we were the only ones in this section of the house. He knew I wasn't talking. I knew that he hadn't said anything. And then at a later point, just right after that, because of my talks with my sister and my cousin, I knew that Corey had a brother, and his brother took his passing extremely hard. It was very difficult for him, and he kind of went down a dark path there. I can't remember what his brother's name was at this point, but I remember asking, why are you here? Do you want me to send a message to your brother? Whatever his name was. Adam, maybe rings a bell. But when I said that, it said, shut the hell up.
In the recording after.
In the recording, yeah. When we played it back for the EVP session. So that was those were the two biggest ones. But we also, Mike, whenever he first got in, he kept saying, I hear like a cat's collar that had like the little bell on it. He kept saying, and I never told him anything about all the cat food that we found in the house whenever we moved in and cleaned it up. But from the moment he got there, he was like, do you guys keep hearing that? Do you guys hear that? And we're like, no, we don't hear anything. What are you talking about? And he was like, I hear like a little cat. He's like, do you guys have a cat? I said, no. And he's like, it sounds like a little jingling bell on the cat's collar. So we heard it almost all night long throughout the EVP recordings. And then we kept seeing the lights go off in the rooms that we weren't in. From down the hallway, it would flash as something was obviously passing next to the sensor.
Can I interrupt you for a sec?
Sure.
Okay, so how would you compare this experience from growing up? Like, would you feel like is the same sort of feel?
Yeah. But
this or would you say one is darker?
I feel like that house that her and I had together was darker. So as we progressed through the night, we wrapped everything up. We got a lot of really good, visual and audio proof and evidence. As they wrapped up and they left probably 4 a.m, maybe 5. I was left there alone, and it was the most uncomfortable feeling that I have ever had in my life. I remember legitimately a grown man. I was 20. I would have been 27, 26, 27 at the time, scared shitless. I remember sitting in the living room and just thinking, like, I feel like something is right on top of me right now, and it's not a good feeling. It felt so negative and so hateful. I was like, I've made a big mistake by bringing these people in here. It is whatever is here is not happy. So I remember going to bed, again, a grown ass man laying in bed, and I ended up having to, like, that feeling was so heavy that I had to pull the covers up over my head to try to, I don't know what I was thinking, maybe create some sort of barrier between what was around me. But I ended up finally dozing off, and I had the most vivid, lucid dream. I remember my phone ringing in my dream, and the caller ID said Corey on it. And when I answered it, it was an immediate, like, just screaming at me, like, how dare you? How could you bring those people in here? I'm not going anywhere. This is my house. And that was at that point, like, I woke up like freaking out and calling my wife. I'm like, you guys need to come home. We need to start figuring out like where we can go. So when they got home, my son was the first one to walk through the door, and he stops right in the little foyer, and he just like cringes and like holds his head down, and I was like, buddy, what's the matter? And he's like, oh, Corey is so mad at you. And he didn't even know that we were doing some ghost hunt thing. She didn't tell him. So as soon as he walked in, he just, oh my God, Corey is so mad at you. It was the creepiest thing ever. So we ended up leaving that house a month or two later, and never
But
looked
your
back.
son never felt like the Corey was any threat to him.
I wonder if it was something darker casting itself or projecting itself as something else.
Okay, so as a religious background that I have, the Bible talks about a thing called familiar spirits,
Mm-hmm.
and what familiar spirits are is a demon posing as something else, someone
Right.
or something else. So you might think you're seeing your grandma, but it's actually not.
Right. And that's what I was curious about. Uh, After we left and looking back on it, I remember thinking like, I wonder if it was something darker that was
Yeah, because Corey was a
trying.
good Christian boy,
Right.
and you know.
So that was that story anyway. So we can just that took place in Springville, Indiana, right off the main strip there. So with that, keeping in the Indiana talk
Well,
here,
wait,
let's
so just a couple questions here, because
sure.
so after you left, it just ended.
Nothing followed us to our other place. No.
And your boy's fine after that. Nothing, it just ended.
Yeah, he.
And you just went to church the next day. Is that?
I should have, but
That was the other time when you were
right. Yeah. So I started. I did start going back to church shortly after that. But yeah, my oldest son seemed to be okay. He would talk about him every once in a while, and still does. From time to time, he will remember certain things and say that I remember Corey from our old house. But uh, yeah,
He'll be on
no,
a podcast. It's like,
yeah, he'll be. I'm sure he's going to have plenty of stories to
yeah.
tell. But so yeah, let's. I guess we can go right into the demon house, just up
So
the
how
road here.
far are you from the demon house?
About
Or
two.
where it
It's
was?
about 2 hours north of me.
And how far when you were in Springfield, or where was Spring? What?
Springville.
Springville?
At that point, see, it probably would have been about 4 hours, three and a
Okay,
half,
so
4 hours. Yeah.
okay, so other end
Yep.
of the state.
Yep. Yep. So I guess I'm going to turn it over to you because obviously there's a Zach Bagans has made a documentary on it after he purchased the house. Just hearing about the story, and you've got some things to share about your experience watching this.
Okay, so I'm really sensitive to spirits, and so uh, I didn't know about this until I accidentally listened to the podcast on Talk is Jericho, and just listening on Talk is Jericho, I felt some really strong energy that night, and uh, so then when I finally watched the actual documentary, it took me 3 to 4 hours to finish watching the whole thing because I'd stop and start because of all this energy and anxiety that the documentary was causing me. And I watched in the middle of the day on a sunny day. And,
On a sunny day, no less.
no rain, no nice and bright. So I forgot all about it after it was finally over, and I go to bed that night and make sure I'm not working that night as well. And And I wake up at 3 a.m., the witching hour, and I'm feeling kind of creepy. Something's going, feel some sort of presence or something in the room. And I hear a voice inside my head, and it goes, "See the house." And I'm just like, oh, shit. So, one thing that's common with demonic sort of presence is they don't like you sleeping. They just like to annoy the shit out of you and
Right.
don't want you to get any rest. Because I
Right.
guess they aren't resting. So I just watched a Netflix show until I fell asleep in my recliner.
Wow. What were your thoughts on the initial show? Obviously, if you had to piece it together, it was somewhat disturbing.
Yeah, I'm kind of gullible sometimes, so I have a hard time, uh, you know, deducing what someone's kind of faking and or whatnot. So
Hmm.
I'll believe you at face value until I find out you're lying to me.
Right. That's kind of my. I mean, I believe in the story very much because it was big news around here before Zach Bagans got a hold of it. This had been going on for a while with this family, and they had called the sheriff's department, the local
Yeah,
police.
that video documentation of the kid climbing the wall that was unbelievable.
Right. Yeah, and they called, priests, they called, people from the church out to come verify it. Child protective services were coming out. Everybody that they had come out essentially verified what the claims were saying, and they were saying that they witnessed certain things.
And aside from the priest, no one wanted anything to do with it.
Right. So I believe in the story 100%. There's obviously something to that so many people could back up and verify the claims, and you could tell, uh, especially while it was going on before the documentary and everything, that the people coming on the news were very shaken by their experience in the house. Even the police officers, the sheriff, the child protective people,
The one
they
thing
were
I was skeptical of was the cameraman who went all death metal and had tattoos and
Mhm.
refused to, he went all
Right.
evil sort of thing. Like
Right.
I thought that was kind of hokey. So, I don't know.
So that's kind of my take on it. Is I completely believe the claims of this family, just by my initial reaction to the original news stories and everything. Obviously, something very dark was in this house. So, transitioning over to the Demon House documentary, I can't get past how hokey Zach Bagans can be sometimes. He can be very over the top and very dramatic, and the way that he acts and everything. And I get it. He's trying to sell copies and he's trying to do this
Did
and that.
he have a lot of people leave his team because of this?
Yes. So a lot of the
Like, wasn't it
people,
really like it was more straight up at the beginning of Ghost Adventures?
right. Yeah. And I was a really big fan of the early first few seasons of Ghost Adventures. And then it became this extravaganza and very, very hokey. So I quit watching it, and every time I would tune in here and there, and every time I'd watch something, it's like this dude is just he's too much, you know. But so his documentary that he put together, he was obviously trying to oversell it and do certain things, but there
I
was
don't know.
something
Like,
about this location, man.
I
That
don't think
there's
he was faking everything.
no, no. He, obviously the meat and potatoes of the story is there. That
No, I think some of the
presents
experiences
itself.
were real as well.
Yeah. I just think that just the way he presents himself and
Yeah.
everything, it can be a little bit too much.
Yeah, and it's tough. It's kind of like when you cry wolf, like, are you going
Yeah.
to believe this person?
Right. Exactly.
So,
But
but
I'm
our friend Kenny Jones is not a fan of Zach Baggins.
I'm not either. What did he say something in the comments here,
No,
or
no.
was it in the
We were
chat?
talking. We were talking in the chat,
Oh,
and Zach Baggins stepped on his Air Jordans and scuffed them up and didn't apologize.
I can believe that. Sounds like a real Zach
You know,
Bagans
he
thing to
just
do.
stepped on his shoes. I guess they're packing, and let's just
Wow.
say sorry. And so
um,
Kenny's not a fan of Zach Baggins.
so I had mentioned a couple of times, or at least once anyway, on the show that we go down to Waverly Hills once a year, the old tuberculosis asylum
Once a
sanatorium.
year, you go.
Yes. Um, Zach and the Ghost Adventures team has been down there a couple of times, and that's what their team down there have said too. Like, Zach Bagans is a total douchebag, just as a person, and they're like, I think he's got some bipolar
We
thing.
got to say douche canoe from now.
Right. Yeah, they said, at one point he's like nice as can be to everybody, and then in the flip of a switch, he acts like a total douche and douche canoe, and and is just being a tool to everybody. And they're trying to help and get things set up and whatnot. And they just said we can't stand him. We don't ever want him to
Well,
come
some
back.
people can't handle the fame and they let it go to their heads and they
I
make
feel
them.
like that is exactly what happened to him. Like once Ghost Adventures like blew up, he became a total tool. That I it's hard to watch sometimes whenever he's turns it up to 12. But overall, like you said, there are certain things in there that are very believable. There are the story itself, I 100% believe. Um, and then there are some things in there that's just like that's a
Well,
little ghost adventure.
the guy whose organ started shutting down,
Yeah,
that was harsh. Like
yeah,
I don't think you can. I don't know. I guess you could fake it, but why go to that extreme?
yeah,
And they had some people die.
yeah. So I don't know.
Like former team members or whatever.
Yeah, um, that film is and documentary is supposedly cursed with people getting sick, people uh, quitting, people dying, people just completely backing away from it and saying that things
And,
were happening in their personal life.
and I actually have an idea
What's that?
that Zach Baggins himself cursed the film.
Probably. I could see that.
Well, because like when you say something is cursed, you're actually giving it power.
That's a fair point.
So, in his greed and fame, he's doing something really stupid.
Mm-hmm. I wonder what his original intention did he I don't recall if he said in the documentary what his original intentions are, why he would just his first reaction was to buy the place.
I guess he must have heard about this place,
Yeah, he had heard about it and he called and made the
he
connections
bought
on
it
who to
sight
talk
unseen.
to, sight unseen. So what are your intentions? You know what I mean? Like what was the original goal there? Was he wanting to ghost adventure it up and turn it into a haunted house attraction that people come to? I don't know,
It was probably
but
just for the documentary itself.
could be. But it
And I
really
got
is.
so upset at the end when he took all the dirt from the portal and put it in a storage bin.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, "What are you doing? That's the part you gotta."
Yeah. Yeah. I just I don't I don't know what he's thinking. If that is indeed a portal to hell, as people would.
Well, there's no verification that the dirt has anything to do with anything.
Right.
It's the whole place in the basement is cement, right? Except for that one place under the
Right.
stairs which
Yeah.
is dirt.
Right.
And they found some stuff buried there.
Yeah.
It was
So,
strange, but
yeah. I don't think I would touch it just in case. I think I would just leave that location as it
well,
is.
what I find is that there's a lot of spells and witchcraft that go along to create this atmosphere. Like there's got to be a occult practices in that happened in that house at one point.
How long did he say it took him to complete the documentary? Like 3 years or something? Because of his team quitting and getting sick and things
It
happening.
didn't seem like that, but
Hmm.
it seemed like it was over like a little short period of time. But I guess you know.
Yeah. Strange, man, but that story is very compelling itself. With I wonder if I can go back, like if we can go find on YouTube, like the original news station broadcasts from around the area when they were first kind of going public with it. And you can start, if you could see those, you really buy into it because, like I said, the sheriff and the CPS people and priests that were talking about it, they were obviously very disturbed by the things that they saw just entering the house. And that one front room was just completely filled with flies. I remember that being part of the one of the news broadcasts when they showed up at the house. The whole window on the front was just nothing but flies.
Yeah, they did say that some of the pictures that were taken of the house where they saw something in the window, they said
Mm-hmm.
that was photoshopped and stuff like that.
Really? Huh. Yeah, that's what makes it even more difficult in this day and age is that stuff is so easy to fake and Photoshop anymore. But yeah, man, I guess we can start winding it down from there, unless you got anything else that you want to talk about.
Um, I had a bit of a paranormal experience a couple weeks ago, again at work.
Let's hear it.
Uh, so after the meetings, I I got to check to see if anyone's there and make sure the buildings. I got to go and see, make sure the building's empty. And so I'm checking the room, and out of the corner of my eye, I see what I think is someone in a black rain poncho. And then I look over, and it's not there. And I'm like, oh. And so I'm just kind of put it out of my head, just like one of those things, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so my shift is winding down, and uh, we have this window from our canteen where we sell stuff to I guess, the cafeteria area. And so I'm like, oh, there's a smudge on the window. So I open it up, and I'm just kind of cleaning the smudge. And we have this clipboard that's right beside the window, and it slams against the wall, and just kind of letting me know, hey, I'm here, kind of thing.
Wow.
And
Uh,
it's
Creepy, man.
kind of those little things that happen,
Yeah.
but nothing compared to what you went through.
That was intense, man.
So do you still have little things that happen, or
No, I haven't experienced anything paranormal outside of when we go to Waverly Hills once a year. But in the homes that we've had or anything like that since, um, I haven't
it's
experienced
like feast
anything.
or famine with you?
Yeah. Uh, I tell you, I really wish that we would have stayed up there in that home in the country with 750 acres after dealing with what we dealt with in that other house. But such is life, I guess. But it was a crazy experience for sure.
And
So
with me, it's just kind of little things. My whole life, it's just little things, but yours is just
Yeah.
the gigantic things and then nothing.
Yeah. They said, a couple of times there at work, I've thought I've heard something or thought I've seen something or anything like that. But as far as home, no. In the office at work, sometimes whenever I'm alone and um, even on my shift now, I work 3 to 11, and I'm the only one in the office. And there have been times where I've heard something that was loud enough to make me think somebody is in here and get up and go search the office to figure out who was in there to make the noise. But yeah, man, nothing at home has ever happened since then.
And let's hope that keeps on happening.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So next week, what are we going to talk about?
We are going to be talking about aliens and
Oh yeah,
UFOs and abductions and stuff of that nature. Uh, my friend is going to join us for that as well.
awesome. Well, I look forward to that. We will let everybody know what time we'll be recording, what time to join us. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see everybody next week.
All right, have a good one.